She stood at the altar in a wedding dress stained with coffee. Her fiancé's mother had thrown it at her 30 minutes before the ceremony. "You think marrying my son makes you family? You're just the maid's daughter." The guests laughed. Her fiancé, Marcus, stood silent. She had worked 3 jobs for 2 years to pay for his mother's cancer treatment, sold her father's only inheritance, a small bakery, to cover the experimental therapy that saved her life. And now his mother held her sister's hand, her sister wearing the veil that was supposed to be hers. "Marcus and Claire make a much better match, don't you think?" his mother announced. The wedding march began, but it wasn't for her. She watched them walk down the aisle she had decorated with flowers she couldn't afford. But this wasn't how her story began. 3 years earlier, Eleanor Hart was 23 and invisible. She worked as a night receptionist at the Grand View Hotel, a live-in caretaker for an elderly woman with dementia, and weekends at a flower shop. Her father had died 6 months prior, leaving behind debt from medical bills and a daughter who refused to let his memory fade into nothing. Her sister, Claire, was everything Elena wasn't. Beautiful, charming, effortlessly magnetic. Claire worked as a sales associate at a luxury boutique, spending more on her nails than Elena made in a week. "Why do you even bother?" Claire said one morning, watching Elena leave for her shift at 4 a.m. "Dad's gone. The debt's not going anywhere. You're killing yourself for nothing." "Someone has to keep his memory alive," Elena replied. "Memories don't pay rent." Elena ignored her. She always did. At the hotel, the manager, Mrs. Chen, was a woman who measured worth in designer labels and family connections. She looked at Eleanor the way people look at furniture: functional, forgettable, replaceable. "The presidential suite needs fresh linens," Mrs. Chen said without looking up from her phone. "And the guest in 403 complained about noise. Go apologize." "But I wasn't working last night. Did I ask for excuses?" Elena climbed 6 flights of stairs because Mrs. Chen said the elevator was for guests only. Her knees ached. She hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. The guest in 403 was a middle-aged businessman who answered the door in a bathrobe. "You're here to apologize," he said, looking her up and down in a way that made her skin crawl. "Yes, sir. I'm very sorry for the disturbance. Come in, let's discuss it properly." "I'd prefer to keep this brief." "I said come in." She didn't. She apologized again and left. The next day, Mrs. Chen called her into the office. "Mr. Patterson filed a complaint. He said you were rude. He asked me to enter his room alone. I didn't feel comfortable." "Your comfort is not my concern. Your job is to make guests happy. If you can't do that, there are 100 girls who can." Eleanor swallowed the words she wanted to say. She needed this job. That afternoon, she met Marcus. He was in the hotel lobby, arguing with the concierge about a lost reservation. He looked exhausted, frustrated, out of place in his wrinkled suit and scuffed shoes. Without thinking, Elena approached. "I can help," she said quietly. He looked at her like she'd just offered him oxygen. "Really?" She checked the system, found his reservation under a misspelled name, and fixed it in 2 minutes. "You're a lifesaver," he said. "Seriously, I'm here for my mother's treatment. If I'd lost this room..." "Is she okay?" "Cancer. Stage 3. We're trying a new clinical trial, but insurance won't cover it. It's a lot." Something in his voice, raw, desperate, reminded her of herself. "I'm sorry," she said, and she meant it. He smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "I'm Marcus." "Elena." They started talking. He came to the lobby every evening after visiting his mother at the hospital. He told her about the treatment costs, the insurance denials, the fear that he was running out of time. She told him about her father, the debt, the jobs that barely kept her afloat. "You're strong," he said one night. "Stronger than anyone I know." She didn't feel strong. She felt like she was drowning. But when he looked at her, she felt seen. 6 months later, he proposed. "I don't have a ring yet," he said, "but I promise I'll get you one. A real one, when things are better." She didn't care about the ring. She cared that someone finally wanted her. His mother, Diane, was a different story. "You work 3 jobs," Diane said the first time they met, her voice dripping with disdain. "How quaint." "I'm saving for my father's. Marcus deserves someone who can contribute, someone with prospects." Eleanor bit her tongue. She told herself it didn't matter. Marcus loved her. That was enough. But then Claire started visiting. "I thought I'd bring Diane some flowers," Claire said, showing up at the hospital with an expensive bouquet. "Marcus mentioned she loves peonies." "How did you—" "He told me. We've been texting." "Texting?" "He's worried about you, Elena. You're working yourself to death. I told him I'd help keep an eye on Diane. I don't need help." Clearly. Claire started coming every day. She brought meals, magazines, expensive skincare products. Diane's face lit up whenever she arrived. "Your sister is delightful," Diane told Elena. "So refined." Elena worked longer hours to pay for Diane's experimental treatment. She sold her father's bakery, the last piece of him she had left, to cover the costs insurance wouldn't touch. She didn't tell Marcus. She didn't want him to feel guilty. The treatment worked. Diane went into remission. "Thank God for the clinical trial," Diane said at her remission celebration, "and for Claire, who kept my spirits up." No one mentioned Elena. Marcus was different now, distant. He worked late, texted less, avoided her eyes. "Are you okay?" she asked one night. "I'm fine, just tired." She didn't push. She told herself it was stress. But then she saw them, Claire and Marcus, at a cafe, laughing over coffee, his hand on hers. "It's not what you think," Claire said when Elena confronted her. "We're just friends." "Friends don't hold hands." "You're being paranoid." "Am I?" Claire's smile was cold. "Maybe if you weren't so busy playing martyr, Marcus wouldn't need someone else to talk to." Elena felt something crack inside her. She didn't know it yet, but that crack would become a chasm. The wedding was supposed to be small, intimate. Elena had planned everything herself, using savings she'd scraped together from 6 months of overtime shifts. She designed the invitations by hand, arranged the flowers from the shop where she worked weekends, baked the cake in her tiny apartment kitchen at 3 a.m. "You're doing too much," Marcus said, barely looking up from his phone. "I want it to be perfect." "It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to happen." She told herself he was stressed. His mother's remission checkup was coming up. He was worried, but the checkup came back clear, and he was still distant. 2 weeks before the wedding, Elena arrived at Diane's house to drop off the finalized seating chart. She found Claire in the kitchen, wearing one of Diane's aprons, laughing over tea. "Elena," Diane said, her voice artificially bright, "we were just talking about you." "The seating chart is ready. Actually, we need to discuss something." Diane exchanged a look with Claire. "Some of the guests are concerned." "Concerned about what?" "About your background, your family's financial troubles. People talk, Elena." "I don't understand." "Marcus is from a respectable family. We have a reputation to maintain." Elena's hands trembled. "I've worked hard to—" "That's exactly the problem. You're always working. A wife should be present, attentive. Claire has been more of a companion to this family than you ever were." The words hit like a slap. "Marcus doesn't feel that way," Elena said, her voice barely steady. Diane smiled. It was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Are you sure about that?" That night, Elena tried to talk to Marcus. "Your mother said something today. My mother's been through a lot. Cut her some slack. She implied that I'm not good enough for this family." "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" He finally looked at her. His eyes were empty. "I don't want to fight about this." "I'm not fighting. I'm trying to understand why you're pulling away." "I'm not pulling away. You barely touch me anymore. You don't answer my calls. You're always with who?" She couldn't say it. Saying it would make it real. "Forget it," she whispered. She didn't know it yet, but that conversation was the last honest one they'd ever have. The day before the wedding, Eleanor was at the venue, setting up the decorations. She'd been there since dawn, arranging chairs, hanging lights, placing flowers. Her back ached. Her hands were raw from tying ribbons. Claire showed up at noon. "You've done a beautiful job," Claire said. running her fingers over the hydrangeas Elena had spent 2 hours arranging. "Thanks. I've been thinking, Mel, about what Diane said, about being present." Elena didn't respond. "You're always so busy trying to prove yourself. But what if you don't have to? What are you talking about?" Claire picked up one of the bouquets. "What if you could just let go, let someone else take care of things for once?" "This is my wedding, Claire." "Is it though?" Eleanor turned to face her sister. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "It means maybe Marcus deserves someone who doesn't treat marriage like a transaction. Someone who loves him, not what he represents." "I love him." "Do you? Or do you just love the idea of not being alone anymore?" The words cut deeper than Elena wanted to admit. "Get out," Elena said quietly. "Elena, I said get out." Claire left, but her words stayed. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the conversation. The look in Claire's eyes, the way Diane had smiled when she said Claire was more of a companion. At 2 a.m. she called Marcus. "Hello?" His voice was groggy. "I need to ask you something." "Now? Are you in love with Claire?" Silence. "Marcus? That's a crazy question. Answer it." "You're being paranoid." "Answer the fucking question, Marcus." More silence. Then, "I don't know." 3 words. That's all it took. Eleanor hung up. She sat in the dark, her wedding dress hanging on the closet door like a ghost, and felt everything she'd built collapse around her. She didn't cry. She was too numb to cry. The next morning, she showed up at the venue. She told herself maybe she'd misunderstood. Maybe he'd been half asleep. Maybe Diane was waiting for her. "We need to talk," Diane said. "About what?" "About whether you're really the right fit for this family." Elena laughed. It was a hollow sound. "Is this a joke?" "I'm quite serious. Marcus deserves someone who can stand beside him, not someone who's dragging him down with debt and ambition." "Ambition?" "You're trying too hard, Elena. It's desperate, unseemly." "I sold my father's bakery to pay for your treatment." Diane blinked. "What?" "The experimental therapy, the one that saved your life. I paid for it. I sold the only thing I had left of my father to keep you alive." Diane's face went pale, then hard. "You should have told us." "I didn't want Marcus to feel obligated." "Obligated? You mean you wanted to hold it over our heads?" Eleanor stared at her. "You can't be serious." "I won't have my son trapped in a marriage built on guilt." That's when Elena understood. It didn't matter what she did, how much she sacrificed, how hard she worked. She would never be enough. At 10 a.m., guests started arriving. At 10:30, Diane accidentally spilled coffee on Elena's dress. "Oh dear," Diane said, her voice dripping with false concern. "How clumsy of me." The stain spread across the white silk like blood. "I don't have another dress," Eleanor whispered. "That's unfortunate." The guests were watching now, whispering. Eleanor stood there, coffee dripping down her front, and felt something inside her die. She looked around for Marcus. He was in the corner talking to Claire. He didn't even notice. That decision would cost her more than she imagined. Eleanor walked out of the venue in her stained wedding dress. She didn't say goodbye, she didn't cry, she just left. She walked for hours. Through the park, past the hotel where she'd met Marcus, down streets she'd cleaned in the early morning hours when the city was still sleeping. Her phone buzzed constantly. Marcus, Claire, even Diane. She ignored them all. By evening, she found herself at her father's old bakery. The new owners had gutted it. The sign was gone. The windows were dark. It looked nothing like the place where she'd spent Sunday mornings helping her father knead dough. The place where he'd taught her that hard work and kindness mattered. She'd sold it for nothing. That night, in her tiny apartment, Elena made a decision. She wasn't going to beg, she wasn't going to explain, she wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. She was going to disappear. The next morning, she quit all 3 jobs. She withdrew what little money she had left from her bank account. She packed a single suitcase. Claire showed up at her door. "We need to talk," Claire said. "There's nothing to talk about." "Marcus is devastated. He didn't mean for things to go this way." How did he mean for them to go? Claire hesitated. He loves you, he's just confused. He loves you. Elena. Did you sleep with him? Silence. Did you? It was one time. We were drunk. It didn't mean... Eleanor closed the door in her sister's face. She left the city that afternoon. For 6 months, Elena lived in a small coastal town 3 hours away. She rented a room above a bookstore and worked as a waitress at a diner that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. She didn't talk to anyone about her past. She didn't make friends. She just existed. At night, she taught herself things she'd never had time to learn before. Accounting, business management, marketing. She studied in the dim light of her room, filling notebooks with ideas, strategies, plans. She didn't know what she was planning for. She just knew she needed to be ready. One evening, a woman came into the diner. She was elegant, silver-haired, wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than Elena's entire wardrobe. "You're good at this," the woman said, watching Elena handle a difficult customer with practiced efficiency. At what? Reading people, managing chaos. You see problems before they happen. Elena shrugged. It's just waitressing. It's more than that. The woman handed her a business card. I'm looking for an assistant. Someone smart, discreet, and not afraid of hard work. Interested? The card read, Victoria Chen, CEO, Apex Consulting. Chen, Eleanor said. Any relation to Mrs. Chen from the Grandview Hotel? My sister-in-law. Why? No reason. Eleanor took the job. Victoria was demanding, exacting, and brilliant. She ran a boutique consulting firm that specialized in turning around failing businesses. She worked 18-hour days and expected Eleanor to match her pace. You have potential, Victoria said 3 months into Elena's employment. But you're holding back. Why? I'm not. You are. You're smart enough to do this job in your sleep, but you're treating it like it's temporary, like you're waiting for permission to actually try. Eleanor didn't have an answer. Whatever happened to you, Victoria said, whoever made you think you had to stay small, forget them. You're better than that. It was the first time anyone had said that to her. Eleanor started to change, not dramatically, not obviously, but slowly, deliberately, she began to shed the version of herself that had begged for scraps of affection and validation. She cut her hair. She bought clothes that fit properly. She learned to speak up in meetings, to trust her instincts, to stop apologizing for taking up space. She was good at the work, better than good. Within a year, she was managing major accounts, negotiating contracts, rebuilding companies from the ground up. You remind me of myself, Victoria said one evening, reviewing Elena's proposal for a new client. Hungry, focused, ready to prove everyone wrong. Is that what you did? Every damn day. Still do. Elena smiled. It felt strange. She couldn't remember the last time she'd smiled and meant it. One afternoon, Victoria called her into the office. I'm retiring, she said. What? I'm 73. I'm tired, and I've been thinking about who should take over the firm. Eleanor's heart raced. Victoria, I want it to be you. You can't be serious. Why not? I've only been here 2 years. And you've tripled our client base. You've turned around 11 failing businesses. You've built relationships with people who wouldn't give me the time of day. You're ready. I don't have the capital. I'll finance it. You pay me back over 10 years. Fair? Elena stared at her. Why are you doing this? Because someone did it for me once, and because you deserve a chance to build something that's actually yours. That decision changed everything. 3 months later, Eleanor became the CEO of Apex Consulting. She rebranded it, expanded the services, hired a team of specialists. She was ruthless about quality, meticulous about details, and absolutely uncompromising about integrity. The business grew fast. Within 18 months, Apex Consulting was the go-to firm for companies in crisis. Elena's reputation spread. She was featured in business magazines, invited to speak at conferences, courted by major corporations. She didn't care about the fame. She cared about the work, about proving, to herself if no one else, that she was more than the girl in the stained wedding dress. but she never forgot. One evening, her assistant brought in a list of new client inquiries. "There's one that might interest you," her assistant said. "The Grandview Hotel. They're in financial trouble. Major management issues, reputation damage. They're looking for a consultant to help restructure." Elena felt something cold settle in her chest. "Tell them we're interested," she said. "Should I schedule a preliminary meeting?" "No, I'll handle this one personally." She didn't know it yet, but this was the moment everything would come full circle. The ghosts of her past were about to learn what she'd become. Eleanor walked into the Grandview Hotel wearing a black suit that cost more than she used to make in a month. Her hair was pulled back. Her heels clicked against the marble floor with the precision of a countdown. Mrs. Chen was waiting in the conference room. "Thank you for coming on such short notice, Ms. Hart," Mrs. Chen said, extending her hand. Her smile was professional, automatic. "We're in a difficult position, and we've heard excellent things about Apex Consulting." Eleanor shook her hand. Mrs. Chen's grip was weak. "I'm familiar with your situation," Elena said, sitting down without waiting to be invited. "Revenue down 40%, staff turnover at 60%, 3 major lawsuits pending, guest satisfaction ratings at an all-time low." Mrs. Chen's smile faltered. "Yes, well, we're hoping to... I reviewed your management structure. It's a disaster." "Excuse me?" "Your managers prioritize personal relationships over competence. You have documented cases of harassment that were ignored. You cut corners on safety. You treat staff like they're disposable." Elena opened her portfolio. "Should I continue?" Mrs. Chen's face went white. "I don't appreciate your tone." "You don't have to. You need my help. I don't need yours." Silence. "My fee is $200,000 for a 6-month restructuring consultation," Elena continued. "That includes a complete management overhaul, staff retraining, policy reformation, and reputation repair. Take it or leave it." "That's absurd." "That's fair, considering I'm going to save your hotel from bankruptcy." Mrs. Chen stared at her, really looked at her for the first time. "Do I know you?" "Yes." "From where?" Eleanor smiled. It was a cold smile. "I used to work here, night shift receptionist. You told me I was replaceable." Mrs. Chen's face went from white to gray. You're the girl who climbed 6 flights of stairs because you said the elevator was for guests only." "Yes." "Who apologized to Mr. Patterson even though he propositioned me." "Yes." "Who worked 3 jobs and still wasn't good enough." "That's me." "I didn't." "You did. And now you're going to listen to every word I say, implement every change I recommend, and thank me for it. Because if you don't, this hotel will be closed within 6 months and you'll be explaining to your investors why you let pride destroy their asset." Mrs. Chen looked like she wanted to argue, but the numbers didn't lie. "Fine," she said finally, "but I want it on record that this is uncomfortable, humiliating. Welcome to my world 3 years ago." Eleanor didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Over the next 6 months, she dismantled everything that had made the Grandview Hotel a nightmare for its staff. She fired managers who had covered up harassment. She implemented fair wage structures. She created policies that protected workers instead of punishing them. Mrs. Chen fought her on every change. "You're costing us more money than we're saving." "Short term, yes. Long term, you'll see a 40% increase in efficiency and a 60% reduction in turnover, which means lower training costs and higher service quality. The staff doesn't need this much protection. The staff are the reason guests come back. Treat them well, and they'll treat your guests well. It's not complicated." By month 5, the hotel's ratings had improved. Guest complaints were down. Staff morale was up. Mrs. Chen never apologized. Eleanor didn't expect her to. On the last day of the consultation, Eleanor submitted her final report. Mrs. Chen reviewed it in silence. "This is comprehensive," she admitted grudgingly. "I know. I suppose I should thank you." "You should. But you won't mean it." Mrs. Chen looked up sharply. "You're very bitter." "I'm very realistic. You didn't learn kindness. You learned that treating people badly has consequences. There's a difference." Elena stood to leave. "Wait," Mrs. Chen said. I do remember you. You were always quiet. hard-working. I didn't realize. You didn't care to realize. That's the problem. Elena left without looking back. A week later, she received a call from an unknown number. Hello? Elena, it's Marcus. She almost hung up. I heard you're back in the city, he continued quickly. I've been trying to reach you for years. I know. I need to explain. No, you don't. Please, just give me 5 minutes. I made a mistake. The wedding it was wrong. I was confused. You were confused about whether you loved me or my sister. Silence. I thought so, Elena said. Claire and I, it didn't work out. We're not together anymore. I've been thinking about you, about what we had. What we had was me carrying you while you figured out if you wanted to be carried. That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. Nothing about what happened was fair, but I'm done being angry about it. So you forgive me? Elena laughed. No, I just don't care anymore. She hung up. That night, she stood on her apartment balcony looking out at the city that had once made her feel so small. She thought about the girl who'd worked 3 jobs and believed that love meant sacrifice. She thought about the woman she'd become, who knew that love without respect was just servitude. She didn't win by destroying them. She won by building something they could never take away. Her phone buzzed. A message from Victoria. Proud of you. Elena smiled. She had survived. Not by becoming bitter. Not by seeking revenge, but by refusing to let their betrayal define her. She was enough. She had always been enough. And finally, she believed it.